Python data types. Let's experiment more on top of this data types session. There are multiple data types that Python supports. We already saw some basic introduction to data types in Python in the previous video. But here we are going to exclusively discuss the depth of the data types that Python supports. We will also see some practical approach of these data types. The first group of data type is all about numeric types. Python supports numeric types, and under the numeric family we have multiple variants of data types. In that, the first one stands as integer, shortly we call it as int. Then the next one is long, the third one is floating, float, and the fourth one is all about a complex type. Now all these four category of types fall under the family of numeric types in Python. But to be noted, if you look at the long type is deprecated from 3.x family of Python. The reason the long type is deprecated from the numeric family from 3.x version of Python is because the support of the long numeric type can be done with the help of int type itself. It is called as non-limited numbers, which you can achieve in int. So we will define the int as non-limited numbers. Before, we usually give this definition for long because it is going to cater a long number of digits. But from 3.x version of Python onwards, the int type itself is treated as a non-limited numbers. So there is no need for us to use long exclusively here. Rather, we will use int itself. So under the numeric family, we have int, long, float, and complex. But from 3.x onwards, we list out as int, float, and complex. So rather having a long in this list, let's try to remove the long type of numeric data type from the list. We will come back to this numeric type shortly. The next family of data types that are supported by Python is sequences types. Now what are the subcategory of those sequences type? Sequences itself is not a data type. It's just a family title that we give for these group of data types that are listed down. The first one stands as str. You all knew what str refers to. It's nothing but a string type, sequence of characters. That's why it is called as a sequences type, right? You will have a collection of characters in the string. The second one is all about the bytes. You have a specific bytes where you will store every data in a byte representation. So it is bytes moreover. And you also have a byte array. There's a big difference between bytes and byte array. We will discuss what's the difference when we get into the details of those sequences types later. The fourth one is all about list, and the fifth one is all about the tuple. List is a sequences type and tuple is also a sequences type. These are pretty earlier to understand what list is and what tuple is. But to just summarize that Python supports sequences data types as well. These are built-in types, inclusive your numeric types are built-in types in Python. Okay, so whatever I'm trying to demonstrate here is all about a built-in types. So sequences types are string, bytes, byte array, list, and tuple. List and tuple is actually categorized into a collections category. But that comes under the sequences types because you store sequences of data into the list and tuple. And of course, your list and tuple will have a difference in it. We will see that later. Then the third type of family is all about sets data types in Python. The first one is set itself, and the second one is a frozen set. This is also pointing to the collections family. This is a built-in type in Python, and we will study more closer to these at the later point of time. The next one, the fourth family to name so, is the mappings type. The mappings data type has a single entry in it, and that's called as a dict. Dict is nothing but dictionary. Is also pointing to the collections family of type, and we use dictionary mainly for the purpose of carrying your key and a value pair. A collections which will carry a key and a value in it. So let's conclude that the list of data types that Python supports are, from the family perspective, it's a numeric type, sequences type, sets type, and mappings type. And we saw the detailed subcategory of those families types as well. So now, to have a better study on the numeric family, let's go ahead and explore a bit of integer types and the float type and a complex type. And we go on with further experiments with the other data types like sequences, sets, and the mappings type as well. So firstly, let's look at the numeric types. If you look at the integer data type under the numeric family, the integer type can take any number of non-limited numbers in it. So let's take an example like this. So let's take a value like this. Seems to be pretty lengthy in its length. Now what I'm trying to do on top of this pretty long number is just going to add with one more value called 1. So you have the actual real number here, and that's been added with a value called 1. And I'm trying to print this. So when we print this, you exactly get the added value of it. So this proves that your int is capable of doing what the long was doing in the earlier versions of Python 2.x, or even to say the earlier family of it. But from 3.x onwards, it's idle that int is sufficient to cater the long digits of numbers or lengthy numbers in it. Now how do we define that this pretty lengthy numbers are actually of class type int? Of course you can do that with the help of a function called type. I guess we discussed more of these functions in the earlier data type video. Now when I go to the type, it clearly says that this lengthy number, which is further added with 1, is of type int, class type int. So we got an idea how an int number would look like and how we can assign that to a integer variable as well. So you can carry the whole value into some variable, let's say x. As we all knew that Python is more dynamic typing, so we need not mention the type next to the variable like this, right? So if I do this and if I try to print the value of x, you get that value. And also you get to know what type that x is all about by using the function called type of. So you got this int type, and also you have a lengthy number which got added and then stored in a specific variable where the variable refers to a computer memory address, and that address in turn points out to this value. That's what we explored more in detail about the basics of variables video. So you can define int like this, specifying this x is of type integer, or even literally you can avoid them altogether and then you execute, still you get the same output. So from this point of view, what you can understand here is int is actually real numbers which is of pretty lengthy in nature, and it's ideally defined as a non-limited numbers, and it's replacing the long type compared to the other versions that we had in Python. So the next discussion is going to be on float expressions. So that we will see it in the next video.